Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. Your entry 744290297 is not valid or the meeting has not started yet. Re-enter your access code or meeting number. You are the first person to join the meeting. Please stand by.
Hello?
Hey, Enrique, is that?
Yes, this is Michael McCrae. Is this Ed?
Yeah, hey, Michael, how are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much for taking a call.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Is Enrique joining us, or is Andy? I think Enrique might be jumping on as well.
Don't know. I did, Andy organized the call and then, oh, hello?
I'm here.
Hey.
Oh, you guys beat me to it. Good for you.
Is this Andy?
Yeah, this is Andy, and sorry to be a couple minutes late, but it sounds like Ed's on the line as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Andy, thanks for all your work organizing.
No problem. We're happy to chat about it. And so, yeah, as discussed, Michael, we'll record the call as well, just in case you have any trouble.
Oh, that's much appreciated. So that's set up right now. You're going okay right now?
Yeah, and I think we probably have up to half an hour. So just to give you a sense of time, I know Ed's got a busy schedule, but I'm sure we'll be able to get through most of what you need to in that amount of time.
Thank you very much, Andy. Just before we start, what is the you had the announcement with Cisco a while ago. I believe that Cisco is kind of your backbone, your communications work through the company. Is that correct?
Sorry, what did you say? Cisco is the...
You had that announcement with Cisco. I was reading through the news release a couple of times. I assumed that was... I assume that was work, mostly kind of around communications and sensors all through the mine, but there was also a lot of talk in there about predictive analytics and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Ed can talk a bit more about this, but Cisco is sort of like one of our, let's say, kind of marquee partners, but of course there are many, many partners involved in the whole digital project, and so Cisco is kind of one of our, let's say, leading strategic partners, but there are others as well. But yeah, they've played a helpful role in helping us get off the ground.
Most of their service they're providing is more around kind of the networks and communication.
Yeah, well, why don't I let Ed take over? He can speak better to that.
Absolutely, but yeah, as I say, we'll get started on Codemine, which is the main. But I'm just kind of catching up on kind of other bits and pieces.
Is that? I mean, Ed, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so look, I mean, it's very fair. I mean, we have a lot of legacy links with Cisco around network and how we're innovating around network in both the open air and underground environments around fixed and mobile equipment. So I think there was a little bit of re-establishing that link from beyond just the purchase of equipment, etc. And then we've deepened that out a little bit with some links into their transformation teams and into some of their collaborative working tools, etc. as well. So it's more than just a veneer, if you like. There is a depth to that now, which also starts filtering down into our security as well, and our approach to cybersecurity.
Thank you. And the other kind of background question was, Barrick has not done anything with Watson, did it? I was reading the piece by Gordon Chu.
Yeah, so we have had some relationships with IBM for a while, and we have trialed some components that they offer outside of Watson. But no, we have not done an IBM Watson trial as such.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's get started then, and I'll go for the first one. Will be who are you?
Ed Humphreys. I'm now the head of our sort of digital execution team, if you like, in terms of delivering our transformation on the ground. Prior to that, I was heading up the transformation, and as part of our transformation, we have brought together our IT and digital components, if you like, under one digital banner. And to do that, we've significantly expanded the total manpower, if you like, that's available on the transformation. And to facilitate that, we have brought in a chief digital officer who now sits up in Toronto from GE, a guy called Sham Chotai, who's bringing all his experience to bear in terms of how do we actually fundamentally reimagine the data and hardware architecture that really the whole company exists on. Because as you can imagine, if you try and transform at a data level and software level and really start innovating at the leading edge, your foundations have to be absolutely solid. And so that process was designed to really harden up the resilience of our core systems, and then to bring them to the leading edge as well. And I think if you were to look across most of mining, and I think it's a sector thing, we tend to lag behind quite a long way. There's a lot of sort of old systems and applications that are very legacy in how they're structured and architectured. And part of the realization that John Thornton and John Chambers really came to is that we really need to reimagine just about every component of our business, and that the foundation of that has to be changed as well. And so that was part of that process.
Are there industries that Barrick benchmarked against regarding transformation, regarding how well it's using its data?
I think it's hard to measure, actually. I think we have looked all over the place. So we've looked into.
I was thinking of oil and gas, for instance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've looked at oil and gas. We've looked at how the airlines, for instance, monitor engines. We've looked into other heavy industries. We've also looked into banking and retail. So I'd like to think that we've taken a pretty good look across the board to try and draw the themes out. We certainly do have, in terms of how we're starting to regard data as a key part of the business and a sort of a fundamental driver, almost as important as the gold that we mine, we have definitely taken that level of inspiration from oil and gas.
What is the work regarding getting the data in shape? I understand that there's probably a lot of disparate technology systems that exist at any mine site. So is there kind of a general game plan for transforming and making it usable and making it better?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, I come from a special forces background, from British Special Forces, and served in all sorts of places overseas, as you can imagine. And I liken it really to how we approached data in the Cold War, and it drove very slow and very deliberate operational cycles, you know, on 2, 3, 4, 5 day cycles. And when we embarked on the sort of the global war on terror, if you like, the rise of data to the top of the primacy of operations and understanding the data and shortening the flows of actually collecting data, bringing it into a location where it could be analyzed, and then spin it back out quickly as insight to drive decision making, became that sort of the prime model. And that involves a couple of big infrastructure steps, I guess. First of all is our network. So we've had to look at how we upgrade our networks both for bandwidth, the width of the pipe. We're having to expand the widths of the pipes around the place, and also then really refine what it is. If you can imagine, most mining companies are full of engineers, and engineers like to measure everything. But actually, what is the minimum amount of data that you actually need to run a business effectively, both in the short term and to take the long-term view, which you obviously need to take in a mining company. And so building that infrastructure to take the right data from A to B has been, I guess, one of the steps. The second step, really, which I think you alluded to there as well, was we have a lot of disparate systems and a lot of disparate servers and applications. And really, it's to then go and look around and see what is it we can do using modern technology, be it Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, those sorts of platforms that will radically change how we collect data, and then put it in places where we then transform it into usable information, be it around our fixed plant or our mobile plant. And really, that strategy was previously under the Consolidated Data Platform, which makes it sound like we were centralizing data. We weren't really. We were just collecting straight from source systems, bypassing a lot of the servers in the middle, and taking it straight into an environment where we could conduct data science and effectively report real-time, straight from source systems, which is something that in many mining companies it's very tricky to do because you often have people and spreadsheets in the way. And so really, we've embarked on that journey to fundamentally transform that. That Consolidated Data Platform has now become what we're going to be terming as the Barrick Data Fabric, which is going to be largely based on an Amazon Web Services platform. And that is really going to take us from, you hear sort of cloud computing, but this is fog. So right from the edge all the way in to enable self-service by our users. So as well as actually upgrading the architecture and the infrastructure, we're having to focus a lot on upgrading our people. So really putting data custodianship, data security, data verification and cleanliness really at the heart of our KPIs. And it's interesting to see now that one of our mines in Nevada here, your iPad and your maintenance of the iPad and the data you put into the iPad is in the morning safety brief, effectively, because it's part of your PPE. It's part of how you can conduct your job more safely and more efficiently. And so, that is actually quite a culture change for us in mining, and especially in North America. And I think that for us is really at the heart of what we're doing here.
What is the picture that you're painting for the person that would be the engineer, and then they have their Excel spreadsheet for whichever report that they've been running in the past, and they're running on something that's standalone? What is the vision, or what are you saying, or where does the organization go when you have this data and that's been put up into the cloud? What do you see that would be the deliverable for Barrick?
So this gets back to really what we're doing here, and there's lots of phrases banded around sort of digitization, all these horrendous phrases. Barrick is conducting what I call a transformation in the digital era. And that is that the fundamental realities of the digital era, be it big data, hyperconnectivity, AI, machine learning, automation, that technology is inevitable now. We're not stepping back from that. We're not riding horses in the age of the combustion engine. But really, that technology is getting simpler and simpler for us to actually utilize at a user level. And so for me, really, the technology in that whole component is around 10% of the problem. 90% of this is about how we enable those people in that environment. And so this is really much a people problem for us. And I don't say problem, but it's how do we better prepare our people to operate in that environment? And one of the things I think we find in the Barrick decentralized model really is that we do have all these systems and spreadsheets, and there are people everywhere. And so what you find is that, and I wouldn't say we're a clogging bureaucracy, but as any corporate will struggle with, is lots of emails, lots of spreadsheets, lots of presentations. And what we're trying to do really is get right to the heart of data. What is the most important data, and how can we automate that, as much of that as possible, so that actually that engineer is not sat there having to rework his spreadsheet or tailor the spreadsheet to the financial model. that he's getting that in automatically, so that actually he has more time to be able to think about his actual job, think about the effect he's having on the ground, and actually then to think about innovation. And really, data transparency for us is breaking it out of those silos that we talked about previously, those disparate systems. Once you get the transparency of the data, then that allows you to make decisions about how you innovate on process. And then once you innovate the process, that allows you to then apply the right and, more importantly, future-proof technology. And so getting that right at the heart with a very much of a user focus at the center of that is really what we're trying to do there. So really it's about freeing up our people to allow them time to innovate.
What skills are you looking for? How do you bring people along to make the transition?
That's a very good question, and it's one of those questions I think you see in the literature quite a lot at the moment. I think the McKinsey report recently was talking about what does work look like in the future. And I think, my aspiration really for us here at Barrick is that Barrick will be turning people out who might not necessarily have the skills now, but we should be turning high-grade digital world-class operators out into the market as we move forward as a business. And I would love to be seen as the place where we actually give people those skills. And those skills really extend from how do you maintain your iPad? How do you reboot the software? All those sort of basic things, which we all take for granted in our sort of lofty positions. Actually, we sometimes have to teach people how to use email in the underground environment. So that's the sort of, giving the people those sort of basic life skills around the tools and the hardware, I think is a starting point. I think the second bit really is if you come on to how we've had a relationship with technology in Barrick. I think most mining companies, we have a lot of consultants, we have a lot of external vendors, and really we have now, and at Barrick we really embrace partnership. And part of that partnership really is that, it's got to be an equitable partnership. So if we are engaged in, say, an autonomous vehicle trial, and we're setting up and maintaining LiDAR systems, tearing up, taking down tele-remote stations, what we really want to be doing is actually qualifying our guys in that as well. So we're really taking that step to make sure that our relationships with people that do work with us are mutually beneficial and that our guys become qualified in that. Be it, how do you terminate fiber in the underground environment? How do you service an underground LTE antenna, for instance? Or how do you conduct your sort of self-fixes on a LiDAR system on your autonomous vehicle, so that it doesn't cause a big breakdown in production, yet that you return that vehicle to operation safely and in an accredited way with a regulator. And so I think it's those skills, everything from basic life skills around digital all the way up through to how do we maintain this stuff in the field. And then, of course, layered on top of that is data is in our DNA. It's now starting to appear in people's KPIs. It's really giving them that basic understanding of how we have to treat data and how that data is then used and how it's vital in the decision-making cycle. And we've actually started that process with a lot of workshops, a lot of training going on to try and get people qualified as data custodians and stewards and all sorts of other stuff in that field. And then obviously we've got within the business, there are quite a lot of extremely bright people who take it to the next level. They're writing their own applications, they're coding themselves. And it's really giving them the framework within which they can safely code in a way that is going to enrich the innovation spirit of Barrick.
What is CodeMine?
CodeMine is a great question. So when we started this transformation, I came down here on a bit of a reconnaissance, and it became very clear to me that there was this broken link between our people and the applications they had and the technology that we use across the industry. It's not just a Barrick problem. So really, CodeMine for us became the conceptual heart of the Barrick transformation. And like I said earlier, 90% of that is about people. So really, the CodeMine became a place where anybody can come into the CodeMine and share an idea. It's a classless society. We don't care who you are, where you come from, what your background is. When you walk through that door, you're going to come in and you're going to play a role in putting ideas on the board and solving problems. No question is a stupid question, and no idea is too wacky and far out there. But the important bit is that there is an environment where people can come and actually share that. And it really has become the heartland, I guess, for our agile approach. So using an agile methodology, which I'm sure you're probably aware of. Great when you're trying to do software and stuff, but also has applications outside of the software development cycle. That's not to say that we're building processing plants, etc., in an agile manner, but we're bringing the spirit of an agile mindset to our innovation approach down here. And the code mine has really become the sort of symbolic heart for that as well. And then finally, I guess that user-centered design. The code mine really, for me, has become a reminder that this is about the user. And I think too often, and if you go and attend some of the conferences and you look around the industry, when people talk digital, they always talk, well, actually, we get it. We get the themes. We get where we're heading to. But how do you actually implement this stuff? And I think where people really lose it is where you break that link with the user at the end. That these things, the tools have got to be intuitive and easy to use and what the user wants. And really the code mine for us has become that sort of conceptual heart of the agile and user-centered design, if you like. And so it started off as a physical location here in Nevada. We have development teams in the States, in Mumbai, in Indonesia, Salt Lake, South America. We have a whole mix. And so the code mine really sort of embodies that value, if you like, of us building great tools for our users.
Can you give an example of somebody that came to CodeMine with a problem or with a process that needed a looking at?
Yes, a great example would be one of our guys, David Yazzie. Now, David Yazzie came from a maintenance background in Barrick and came to us with a problem that, we have this very paper-based process. And when you have the paper, you don't collect the data. And he goes, I want an intuitive task management system in maintenance that allows us, as the guys on the ground, maintaining a very clear process that takes the paperwork out, gives us more time to spend actually fixing vehicles and processing plant. And I'd like it all on a tablet. And so we were like, great, David, you're now the product owner. We taught him around Agile. We surrounded him with a UX designer, a Scrum Master, a development team, and we basically threw him in the deep end. And he has, over the course of this last year, which is rolled out now and is operational in one of our sites, developed a piece of software calling Forge internally, digital work management. It's an iPad-based platform for maintenance, which takes paper out of the whole maintenance cycle in the shops. And it's been hugely well received and adopted at our test site here, and is now being sort of prepared for expansion into other sites. That is, he's a shining example of that, as someone with a great idea and the desire and the will to make a change, having turned that into a reality through the approach in the code mine.
Why did you set up that structure that way? Why do you have the physical location at Cortez Mine? Why do you have people that are coming in? That would seem like an unusual structure for making those product improvements.
I think, we picked Cortez for a reason. Obviously, we're an international company, and we wanted to really get to the heart of the heart of Barrick. And for us to operate, it's much easier to obviously operate in an English-speaking environment to start. Cortez, though, brought together a pretty unique sort of cross-section of what it is we do in Barrick as a whole. So at Cortez, you have open pit, you have underground, you have leach pad, you have processing plant. And so you get a really good mix of environments there that are generally a pretty good cross-section of all of the things that actually go on across Barrick. So as a test site, it's a great place to then actually see how, in a proof of concept, you build out small concepts, and then how do you then turn those products and services into system-wide benefits that then spin out from the open pit into the processing plant and onwards. So that was why we picked Cortez. Now, that's not to say that we don't, we're not all located here. So whilst we do have developers here, actually writing code, we do have remote teams as well. So we do acknowledge that getting talent to come to the middle of northern Nevada, spend an hour and a half on a bus out to site and live underground is probably not a realistic expectation for your average sort of Silicon Valley buff. But what we did is we felt that it was very important to actually have people on the ground here so that they really understand mining and they understand the unique pressures that the guys in the underground environment have. And more importantly, actually, in terms of when we're building resiliency into these products, is to understand that actually every mine is slightly different. And part of what we want to try and do for Barrick is really standardize and simplify across the sort of the technology deck as well. And so really doing that here and in the heart of this application is the best way to do that, to get the user feedback and to really test what it is we're doing in a very brutal, upfront and honest way. If it doesn't work, a miner will tell you straight away, no holds barred. And that's quite important for us in de-risking some of these projects.
Can you tell me who somebody that's interested in getting into mining, can you tell me what the skill set that people are going to be looking for large miners?
I think it's going to be really interesting because the range of jobs just seems to be increasing. So I guess previously down here where you definitely be much more into the heavy equipment and machinery, some of the the geological side of things. Those roles are now becoming more and more blurred. You will need to have some analytical skills on top of that. Your spatial awareness needs to be slightly different. Your pattern recognition, and I guess just the general ability to be able to question. And I think, that's something that you have to really build into people. How do you get people to ask so what all the time? There's a deduction. You've got to ask so what. So what are the second and third order deductions for that piece of information? And I think that's really what we're doing here is how do you join up these complex internal systems from an underground mine and link it as a system to the processing plant and then get the teams in both locations to think collaboratively and in a unified way towards a common purpose. And so really, on top of the sort of the normal skills you need as a miner, technical and safety, etc., and being be part of a team, it's bringing that extra layer of analytical thinking to it. But it's, that's from a miner's perspective. But, we're also hiring very bespoke roles in the business at the moment anyway. We have data scientists. We didn't have any data scientists at the start of the year. We have a whole team of them now. We're hiring analysts for our analytics and operations center here in Nevada in order to sort of drive that culture of data through the business. And so, and it's interesting, once you see these guys at work and what I'd sort of say the legacy workforce see that in operation, they very quickly get a hunger for it and actually want those skills themselves. So, yeah, it's a broad mix, I think.
I think that's a good place to end it there. Yes, it does. I think that's a nice place to end it there, Ed. I thank you very much for your time. I think we're up on our half hour.
Fantastic. Hey, absolute pleasure. Please, any other questions or anything you might have, don't hesitate to reach out via Andy and the guys, and I'd be very happy to help.
I was checking out. I was checking out the video. That's very impressive that you have people on site there, and then you actually have the miners that are coming in. So it was as you point, you're not sending a request to Toronto to get something done, but you have people that can work there. But
absolutely.
I don't know. The only thing I don't understand is how you guys would actually prioritize, because you would have all of those good ideas that would be coming in. So. But
well, I mean, I can very quickly answer that, and we prioritize based on the return of the investment we get on those projects. So, we have to balance that, because some projects, like we mentioned at the start of the presentation, is really about we've got to fix infrastructure and stuff. So you might not see the value for those immediately. But they're sort of the critical things that you have to do to enable yourself for the future. So we split these into enablers. And then obviously we drive a very clear planning process around our life of mine, which set our yearly objectives. And if you were to imagine sort of safeguarding your core free cash flow, we would then prioritize projects on what projects can we do to protect our core cash flow? Mm-hmm. What projects can we then do to enhance our core cash flow? And then what we then do is, obviously you need to then sort of monitor how you're doing that with the data as well. And I think for us really, what we try and do in the digital team as an initial filter is to try and pay back a project at around within a year. Some are quicker, some, depending on if you have a little bit of a delay on a rollout to an implementation, you might be just over the year. But we generally have, some pretty tight rules internally and governance, the governance structures internally to make sure that we are focused it in the right way, but we also then take into consideration the users, what they need as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the answer.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, Michael, as Ed, just let us know if there's any follow-ups or any questions you've got. Happy to help.
Thank you very much again, Andy. Thank you very much again, Ed.
Pleasure.
Good talking to you.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye. And you. Thanks, mate.